Good afternoon, and welcome to my presentation on dose estimates. I would really like to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to present this work here today. And I can assure you we've worked very hard these last couple of weeks and months. And with that, I will not only show you the dose finding approach, but also some dose estimates as well as validation today. We think that drug dosing is very valuable for pharmacoepidemiologic studies because it has a lot of applications. However, it's quite a challenging task. Some of you who've tried will agree with me. And especially in some databases, you don't have the dosing available that the doctor may have prescribed. However, there is quite an excellent reference, which is the WHO ATC Daily Dose Index. And here you see the example of paracetamol, which has a kind of a standard daily dose of 3 grams. And there is different administration routes. It's oral, parenteral, or rectal. And it's actually those dose forms, those different dose forms that gives us the headache when trying to estimate dose and finding dose formulas. So we set out to introduce a uniform approach to develop dose formulas, as well as validate those suggested dose formulas. Our approach revolved around units, routes, and the link with the OHDSI vocabulary is the drug strength patterns from the drug strength table. In detail, we identified 31 patterns with clinically relevant units, and we categorized them into 3 groups. You see the fixed amount formulation patterns, the time-based formulation patterns, and the concentration formulation patterns. And it's this last example which I want to use to show you the concept of how we derived the dose formulas. So here you see an example of 2 different patterns. And it's the numerator and denominator that makes up this concentration formulation patterns. In the first row, you see that the denominator is present, and in the second row, it is missing, which means it's a quantified drug. And in this concentration formulation patterns, we had 22 patterns with clinically relevant units. And to see what was really going on, we performed an extensive clinical review in 4 different databases, the CPRD, Gold, ORAM, the Dutch Primary Care IPSI database, as well as the Pharmetrics Plus for academics. And the suggested dose formula is depicted here, and the clinical review really wanted to know whether the numerator value made sense in relationship with the quantity. So we found that for the patterns depicted here, divided by route, whether this formula made sense or not. And if you want to know how we derived the route from the dose form, which is a separate project, you can find me at poster 13. So it's not only important to find or suggest those formulas, but also validate them. And we did this in using 5 different ingredients in 5 different databases. And we compared our estimates to the WHO daily dose. And for time constraints, I can only show you a subset of results. So let's start with furosemide, which is 40 milligram in oral and injectable route. And this is a drug that's given regularly, so it makes sense to estimate those there. Okay. Let's see what's going on here. Okay. So we have those 3 databases, which is the IQVIA Disease Analyzer Germany, the Dutch Primary Care IPSI Netherlands, and Pharmetrics Plus for academics. And in the first column, you would see the most simple analysis, where we only looked at what the unit was. And you see that the majority of drug records had a milligram unit, and they have the exact same, our dose estimates were exactly like the WHO daily dose. In the second column, when we took into account the route, you see that in the primary care in the Netherlands, our dose formula did not have good results for the injectables, but also the number was very small. But it's relevant if you, for example, want to have, for whatever reason, use the injectables. And in the last column, we also have the dose stratified by pattern. And here you see that the milligram, the fixed amount formulation in oral is 99.6% in the IPSI database. So it would make sense to perform a study in oral tablets, for example, and not in injectables. If I have enough time, yes, I would also show the second example. It's quite an interesting one because here the WHO daily dose depends on the dose form. So it's either an inhaled powder or an inhaled solution. And here you can see that our approach by the drug strength pattern really picked up the perfect WHO daily dose depending on whether it was the powder or the inhaled solution. Also here where there were some patterns which were off, but I mean data is never always perfect. In strength, we say that we demonstrated a uniform approach towards dose finding and we validated the dose formulas. However, the dose finding process is quite slow and extensive due to clinical review. And the major obstacle we found was the quantity field, which varied a lot depending on the databases that we've seen. And this made it really hard to suggest a uniform dose formula. I mean, this is not the point to have a dose formula per database, but we wanted to suggest a generic approach. So to conclude, depending on the setting of the data, the dosing estimation worked better or worse for different formulations and routes. And we would always suggest to perform thorough diagnostic investigations before estimating dose. And this can certainly be done with this package that the great team wrote in Oxford. And it's a drug utilization R package developed under DARWIN EU. And with that, I would like to thank the funders, collaborators, the community, the whole team in Oxford, data partners who have run the study. And if you want to know more, you can find me at poster 502 in the break. Thank you.